The diplomatic vessel moved slowly through the darkness of space, its white hull reflecting the distant stars. Inside the ship, Ambassador Chen Wei stood before a large window, watching as the massive Krythax space station grew larger with each passing moment. His hands were steady, but his heart beat faster than usual. This was humanity's first contact with the most powerful species in the galaxy. Chen Wei was 53 years old, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many difficult negotiations on Earth. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Behind him, his small team of diplomats whispered nervously to each other. They had studied everything they could find about the Krythax Empire. What they learned had frightened them all. The Krythax had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were 8 feet tall with thick scales covering their bodies like natural armor. Their teeth were sharp, their claws deadly, and their eyes saw in wavelengths humans could not imagine. Every species that met them either bowed down or was destroyed. There were no other options. At least that was what the galaxy believed. The communication screen flickered to life. A massive reptilian face appeared, its yellow eyes studying the humans with obvious disgust. General Vorthak, the military commander of the Krythax Third Fleet, looked at Chen Wei the way a predator looks at something small and weak. "So these are the humans," Vorthak said, his voice deep and filled with contempt. "You look even more pathetic than the report suggested. Pink skin, no scales, no claws. How does your species even survive?" Chen Wei smiled politely, though he felt the insult burn inside him. "We survive quite well, General. We come in peace, hoping to establish friendly relations between our people and yours." Vorthak laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Behind him, other Krythax warriors joined in the cruel laughter. "Peace, friendship. These are words for the weak. You will listen carefully, little human. The Krythax Empire does not make friends. We make subjects and slaves." The ambassador's team shifted uncomfortably. Chen Wei raised his hand slightly, signaling them to remain calm. He had expected this. The Krythax were known for their arrogance. They had beaten every species they encountered for thousands of years. Why would they treat humanity differently? "We had hoped for a different outcome," Chen Wei said carefully. "Humanity has much to offer. Our technology, our culture, our perspective. Surely there is room in this vast galaxy for cooperation." "Cooperation?" Vorthak leaned forward, his massive form filling the screen. "Here is my offer, human. You will return to your primitive planet. You will gather your leaders. You will tell them that Earth now belongs to the Krythax Empire. You have 1 solar cycle to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will take your world by force. Your people will become slaves. Your cities will burn. Your children will serve our empire for generations." The room fell silent. Chen Wei's team looked at their ambassador, waiting for his response. The weight of their entire species rested on his shoulders at that moment. He knew that his next words would shape humanity's future. Chen Wei took a slow breath and looked directly into Vorthak's yellow eyes. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "General, I must inform you that you are making a terrible mistake." Vorthak's laughter stopped. His eyes narrowed dangerously. "Did you just threaten me, little mammal?" "No, General. I am warning you. Humanity has studied your empire. We know your strength. We know your power. We know you have never lost a war. But you have not studied us. You see weak creatures and you assume we are easy prey. This assumption will cost you everything." The Krythax general's scales rippled with anger. "You dare speak to me this way? I have destroyed entire civilizations. I have burned worlds. What can your pathetic species possibly do to the mighty Krythax?" Chen Wei's expression remained calm, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "We can show you why Earth is classified as a death world. We can show you what it means to evolve as apex predators on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We can show you what happens when you threaten a species that wiped out every competitor it ever faced. But most importantly, General, we can show you what humanity does to those who harm our children." Vorthak stared at the human for a long moment. Then he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You amuse me, little human. I almost hope you resist. It will make conquering you more entertaining. 1 solar cycle. That is all you have." Vorthak out, the screen went dark. Chen Wei's team erupted in worried conversation, but the ambassador stood quietly, still looking at the blank screen. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah, approached him carefully. "Sir, what do we do now? They're going to attack us regardless of what we say." Chen Wei turned to look at his team. For the first time since the meeting began, he allowed himself a grim smile. We do what humanity has always done, Sarah. We prepare for war, and we show the galaxy why you never ever threaten the human race. The diplomatic vessel turned away from the Krythax station and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, General Vorthak watched the small ship leave, already planning the invasion. He had no idea that he had just awakened something the galaxy had never seen before. He had awakened humanity's wrath. Proxima Station orbited its star peacefully, a massive wheel of metal and glass housing 50,000 human souls. Families lived there, children went to school there, people worked and dreamed and loved there. It was humanity's furthest colony, the edge of human space, a symbol of how far mankind had come since leaving Earth. The attack came without warning. Krythax warships dropped out of hyperspace like hungry wolves surrounding prey. Their weapons tore through Proxima Station's shields in seconds. Explosions ripped through the habitation rings. People screamed as the station's atmosphere vented into space. Emergency alarms blared uselessly as section after section was destroyed. Commander James Park was in the station's control center when it happened. He watched helplessly as Krythax boarding pods smashed through the hull. Warriors poured into the station, their massive forms moving with terrible purpose. Park tried to organize an evacuation, but the Krythax had planned this carefully. They targeted the escape pods first. "They're hunting us," Park said into his communication device, broadcasting on all emergency channels. "This isn't a military operation. They're hunting civilians for sport. If anyone receives this message, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the Krythax are monsters." The transmission ended in static. Commander Park died defending a group of children trying to reach an escape pod. He killed 2 Krythax warriors before they overwhelmed him. He was one of the lucky ones. His death was quick. The attack was broadcast across the entire galaxy on Krythax communication networks. They wanted everyone to see. They wanted the galaxy to witness what happened to those who refused to submit. Alien species across thousands of worlds watched in horror as the Krythax tore through Proxima Station. Some felt sympathy for the humans. Most felt relief that it was not happening to them. On Earth, in the Global Defense Council chamber, Fleet Admiral Sarah Okonkwo watched the broadcast 3 times. Her dark eyes remained dry, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Around her, the leaders of humanity's military forces sat in stunned silence. 50,000 people, someone whispered. Men, women, children. They killed them all. Not all, Okonkwo said quietly. 7,000 made it to escape pods. The Krythax let them go. They wanted survivors to spread fear. Ambassador Chen Wei, who had returned to Earth hours before the attack, stood slowly. His calm demeanor from the Krythax meeting was gone. In its place was something harder, colder. They wanted to send a message. They have sent it. Now we must send ours. The president of the United Earth government, an elderly man named Marcus Williams, looked around the chamber. The question before us is simple. Do we surrender to save lives, or do we fight knowing it may cost billions? Okonkwo stood up, her uniform crisp and perfect despite the late hour. She was 60 years old, a veteran of the Mars Rebellion and the Titan Wars. She had seen combat. She understood its price. But she also understood something else. Mr. President, with respect, you are asking the wrong question. The Krythax have shown us what surrender means. Those people on Proxima Station surrendered the moment the shields fell. It did not save them. The Krythax do not want our submission. They want our extinction, our enslavement, our complete destruction as a free species. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images appeared one after another. Images that most of the council had never seen before. "These are classified files," Okonkwo said, "recovered from Krythax databases by our intelligence operatives. This is what happens to species that surrender to them. The Vrelians surrendered 500 years ago. Their population is now down to 3 million, all slaves. The Torth surrendered 2,000 years ago. They no longer exist as a species. The Krythax bred them into something else, something docile and useful." The images continued, each one more horrifying than the last. The council members looked away, but Okonkwo's voice forced them to listen. Surrender is not an option. It never was. The only question is whether we fight now, while we have strength, or wait until they come to Earth and slaughter us in our homes like they did at Proxima Station. President Williams closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were filled with terrible resolve. "Put it to a vote. all in favor of declaring total war against the Krythax Empire. Every hand rose. There was no hesitation, no debate. Humanity had made its choice unanimous, William said. Admiral Okonkwo, you are hereby granted supreme military authority. You will command all human forces. You will do whatever is necessary to protect humanity and defeat the Krythax Empire. May God have mercy on us all, Okonkwo saluted. Mr. President, there is something else you need to know. Something we have kept secret for the past century, waiting for a moment like this. She entered a code into the holographic display. The images changed, showing massive hidden facilities, weapons that seemed impossible, ships disguised as civilian vessels, and armies training in secret locations. Protocol Fenrir, Okonkwo said. After the Mars Rebellion, our military leaders realized something. Humanity is alone in a dangerous universe. We needed a contingency plan, a way to survive if something much stronger than us decided we should not exist. So we prepared, we built, we trained, we turned our entire civilization into a hidden weapon. Chen Wei stepped forward. The Krythax think they know us. They see primitive mammals who just learned to travel between stars. They did not bother to study our history. They did not learn what kind of world produced us. Okonkwo's expression was grim. Earth is a death world. The Krythax evolved on a planet with light gravity and few predators. We evolved fighting every day to survive. Every species on Earth that competed with us is now extinct because we destroyed them. We are apex predators. We are survivors. And now the Krythax will learn what that means. She looked around the chamber at the faces of humanity's leaders. Protocol Fenrir is now active. Mobilize everything. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The Krythax wanted war. They have it. And they are going to learn why humanity is the species that conquered a death world. 3 weeks after the Proxima Station massacre, something strange happened across the galaxy. Human merchant ships vanished from trade routes. Human diplomats recalled to Earth. Human colonies went silent, their communication channels dark. The galaxy noticed, but most species assumed humans were preparing to surrender. General Vorthak received reports in his command ship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Fang. His intelligence officers told him that human activity had ceased almost everywhere. The Krythax general smiled with satisfaction. The destruction of Proxima Station had worked perfectly. The humans were terrified. They run like frightened prey, Vorthak told his officers. Prepare the invasion fleet. We will take Earth in one glorious assault. The mammals have no stomach for real war. But Vorthak was wrong. Humans were not running. They were preparing. In the asteroid belt beyond Mars, massive doors opened in what appeared to be ordinary rocks. Hidden military bases activated, facilities that had been built over decades in complete secrecy. Ships emerged, but not civilian vessels. These were warships, sleek and dangerous, equipped with weapons the Krythax had never encountered. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his ship, the Vindictive. It was a stealth destroyer, designed specifically for the kind of war humanity was about to fight. Around him, his crew worked silently, efficiently. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. All systems green, his first officer reported. Stealth field active. Weapons armed. Rodriguez was 42 years old, born on Europa and trained in Earth's most elite military academies. His grandfather had fought in the Mars Rebellion. His mother had died defending a colony from pirates. War was in his blood and he understood it better than most. Good, Rodriguez said. Set course for Krythax Outpost Zeta 9. Silent running. If they detect us before we reach attack range, we are dead. The Vindictive was not alone. Across human space, 200 similar ships were moving into position. This was humanity's first strike. Carefully planned and brutally simple. They would hit the Krythax where they were weakest and show the galaxy that humans would not go quietly into extinction. Outpost Zeta 9 was a Krythax military station on the edge of their territory. 3,000 Krythax soldiers lived there, along with support staff and administrators. It was considered an easy posting, far from any threats. The Krythax warriors stationed there spent their time training and waiting for something interesting to happen. They did not have to wait long. The attack began at 300 station time. Human stealth ships materialized from nowhere, their weapons already firing. Nuclear missiles slammed into the station's shields. Kinetic rounds, accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through armor. Laser batteries carved through hull plating like it was paper. Inside Outpost Zeta 9, alarms screamed. Krithak's warriors rushed to battle stations, but the humans were already inside. Boarding pods had attached to the station's hull in a dozen places. Human Marines poured through, moving with deadly precision. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were descendants of Earth's special forces, trained in zero-gravity combat, experienced in fighting in hostile environments. Each Marine carried weapons designed specifically to kill Krithaks, high-frequency blades that could pierce their scales, explosive rounds that could crack their armor, sonic grenades that disrupted their enhanced hearing. Sergeant Maria Chen led her squad through the station's corridors. She was small compared to the Krithaks, barely 5.5 feet tall, but she moved like a ghost, her powered armor making her faster and stronger than any unarmored opponent. A Krithaks warrior rounded the corner, his massive form filling the hallway. He raised his plasma weapon, but Maria was faster. She threw a sonic grenade. The device detonated with a frequency specifically calibrated to cause Krithaks extreme pain. The warrior collapsed, his enhanced hearing turned against him. Maria did not stop. Her squad moved past the fallen warrior, pushing deeper into the station. Their orders were clear. Disable communications. Destroy weapon systems. Eliminate command structure. Show no mercy, contact front, one of her Marines called out. A group of Krithak soldiers had formed a defensive position ahead. They opened fire with plasma weapons. The human Marines scattered, using cover and movement to avoid the incoming fire. Grenade out, Maria said calmly. She tossed a small device that bounced once before detonating. It was not a normal explosive. It was a biological weapon, a modified virus engineered specifically for Krithak's DNA. The warriors screamed as their scales began to corrode, their own biology turning against them. Captain Rodriguez watched the battle from the Vindictive's bridge. His ship and the others maintained their position outside the station, ready to destroy any Krithak's vessels that attempted to respond. But no help was coming. The humans had jammed all communications. Outpost Zeta 9 was alone. "Sir, all objectives complete," his tactical officer reported. "The station is ours," Rodriguez nodded. "Good. Set demolition charges. We are not here to hold territory. We are here to send a message." 30 minutes later, the human forces withdrew. The Marines returned to their ships. The destroyers moved back into stealth mode. And then Outpost Zeta 9 exploded. A brilliant flash of light that would be visible for light years in every direction. The destruction of the outpost was just the beginning. Over the next week, human forces struck 17 more Krithak's facilities. They hit supply convoys. They destroyed communication relays. They assassinated military leaders. Every attack was surgical, brutal, and completely unexpected. General Vorthak watched the reports with growing disbelief. His empire had not lost military facilities in centuries. Now they were losing them daily. The humans were using tactics the Krithaks had never encountered. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, psychological operations. They fight without honor, Vorthak growled to his staff. They strike from shadows. They poison our warriors with biological weapons. They attack logistics rather than facing us in proper battle. His chief advisor, an old warrior named Krelax, looked troubled. "General, perhaps we underestimated them. These humans fight like they have done this before, like they have fought wars like this for thousands of years." Vorthak slammed his fist on the table. "They are mammals. Weak creatures. We will crush them when they finally face us in real combat." But deep down, the general felt something he had not experienced in decades. Something that no Krithak's warrior wanted to admit they could feel. Fear. The humans were not fighting to win territory or gain honor. They were fighting for extinction, and for the first time, Vorthak wondered if the Krithak's empire had made a terrible mistake. The war had been raging for 6 months, and the galaxy watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The Krithak's empire, undefeated for 3,000 years, was losing, not quickly. Not easily, but losing. Human fleets appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking at supply lines that the Krithaks had thought were perfectly safe. Krithak's generals found their communication systems hacked, their orders changed, their ships sent to the wrong locations. Slave species that had served the Empire for centuries suddenly rebelled, armed with human weapons and trained by human advisors. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo commanded the human forces from a hidden base in the Kuiper Belt. Her operations center was a maze of holographic displays showing battles across dozens of star systems. She barely slept, surviving on stimulants and pure determination. "Status report," she ordered. Her tactical officer, Commander Park, gestured to the main display. Operation Mongoose is complete. The Krathak supply depot at Theta Sector is destroyed. Their third fleet is now without fuel or ammunition. Operation Tiger successful. We have confirmed kills on 3 Krathak's admirals. Operation Serpent ongoing. Our agents have successfully contacted the Vrelian slave population. They are ready to revolt. Okonkwo nodded with satisfaction. Every operation was named after an Earth predator. It was a deliberate choice. She wanted the Krathaks to understand what they were facing. Not fellow predators fighting for honor, but extermination specialists fighting for survival. What about Krathaks Prime? She asked. Park hesitated. Intelligence confirms the target. Their homeworld is heavily defended, but there are weaknesses. If we commit our full strength, we can breach their defenses. Okonkwo studied the tactical display showing Krathaks Prime, the heart of their empire, the symbol of their power. Taking it would be costly but necessary. Wars were not won by defense. They were won by making your enemy fear what you would do next. Begin preparations for Operation Extinction, Okonkwo said. We go for their homeworld. Light years away, General Vorthak received the news that changed everything. Human forces were moving toward Krathaks Prime. Not raiding parties, not strike teams, an entire fleet. He stood in his command center aboard the Eternal Fang, surrounded by his most trusted officers. The mood was dark. The war had not gone as planned. The humans refused to fight the way wars were supposed to be fought. They struck at weakness. They used biological weapons, cyber attacks, and psychological warfare. They turned the Krathaks as slaves against them. They made every Krathak soldier fear shadows. How many ships? Vorthak demanded. At least 300, his intelligence officer reported. But our sensors may be compromised. The humans have demonstrated advanced stealth technology. There could be more. Vorthak felt his scales ripple with anger and something else, something he refused to name. Recall all available fleets to Krathaks Prime. We will make our stand there. We will show these mammals what real Krathaks power looks like. The defense of Krathaks Prime began 2 weeks later. The Krathaks had assembled their largest fleet in generations. 5,000 warships surrounded their homeworld. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons. Ground-based missile systems tracked every approach vector. It should have been impenetrable. Captain Rodriguez was there when the human fleet arrived. His ship, the Vindictive, was part of the vanguard. He looked at the massive Krathaks fleet and smiled grimly. The Krathaks were finally fighting the way they understood. A big conventional battle. Ship against ship. Strength against strength. They had learned nothing. All ships, execute pattern Omega. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through the communication channel. The human fleet did not charge forward in a glorious assault. Instead, they scattered. Ships broke formation, moving in seemingly random directions. The Krathaks fleet moved to intercept, but suddenly found themselves confused. Human ships were everywhere and nowhere. Stealth fields activated and deactivated. False sensor readings filled Krathaks' tactical displays. And then the real attack began. Human ships had not come to fight a traditional battle. They came equipped with weapons the galaxy had never seen used in warfare. Relativistic kinetic missiles, accelerated to near light speed. Nuclear mines hidden in the debris field around the planet. Cyber attacks that seized control of Krathaks' automated defense systems. Biological weapons that targeted Krathaks' DNA specifically. Rodriguez guided his ship through the chaos, targeting Krathaks' command vessels with precision strikes. His weapons officer was a young woman named Sarah Park, daughter of the commander who had died at Proxima Station. She worked with cold efficiency, each shot a memorial to her father. Plasma torpedoes away, she reported. Target destroyed. The Krathaks fleet fought back desperately. Their ships were powerful, their weapons deadly, but they were designed for the kind of warfare the Krathaks understood. Honor duels between massive vessels. Glorious charges. Strength against strength. Humans fought differently. They swarmed. They ambushed. They used every advantage, every trick, every weapon they had. When Krathaks ships targeted human vessels, they found them already gone, replaced by holographic decoys. When Krathaks commanders gave orders, they found their communication systems compromised. Their orders changed to create confusion. The battle raged for 3 days. The space around Krathaks Prime became a graveyard of ships from both sides. Thousands died every hour. The Krathaks fought with desperate courage, but courage was not enough against human tactics. On the surface of Krathaks Prime, the civilian population watched the battle in their skies. They had never seen their fleet lose. It was impossible. The Krithax were the strongest species in the galaxy. How could these small mammals defeat them? General Vorthak knew the answer. He watched from the bridge of the Eternal Fang as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans did not fight for honor. They fought for survival. And they fought with the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of warfare on Earth. A planet where war was not a ritual but a science, sir. We have lost 70% of our fleet, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. The orbital platforms are falling. The humans are breaching our atmosphere. Vorthak looked at the tactical display. Human ships were diving toward the surface, preparing for ground assault. He knew what would happen next. The humans would do what they did best. They would show no mercy. They would take his world the way the Krithax had taken so many others. Send a message to all Krithax forces, Vorthak said quietly. General, retreat. Protect the civilian population. The battle for Krithax Prime is lost. His officers stared at him in shock. Retreat was not a word the Krithax used. But Vorthak was not thinking about honor anymore. He was thinking about survival. The humans had taught him that lesson, written in the blood of his warriors across a dozen star systems. And send a message to the human fleet. Vorthak continued. Tell them General Vorthak requests negotiations. Tell them we surrender. The message from General Vorthak spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The Krithax Empire, the most feared military power in known space, had surrendered. Species that had lived in terror of the Krithax for centuries could not believe it. Some celebrated, others worried about what came next. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood in the command center of the newly captured Krithax orbital station above their home world. Through the massive windows she could see the planet below, scarred by the battle but still intact. She had ordered her forces to minimize civilian casualties. This was a war against the Krithax military, not their people. Admiral, General Vorthak is ready to meet with you, Commander Park reported. Okonkwo nodded. She had spent months planning this moment. But now that it had arrived, she felt the weight of it. What happened next would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. She could be merciful or vengeful. She could take revenge for Proxima Station, or show the galaxy that humanity was better than the Krithax had been. The meeting room was simple, with a large table and chairs designed for different species. Vorthak entered first, flanked by 2 guards. The Krithax general looked different from the arrogant warrior who had threatened humanity months ago. His scales were dull. His eyes were tired. He had lost his empire, his fleet, and his certainty. Okonkwo entered alone, refusing the guards that Park had wanted to assign. She sat across from Vorthak and studied him silently for a moment. You wanted negotiations, Okonkwo said. Talk. Vorthak's claws scraped against the table. I underestimated your species. I thought you were weak because you looked weak. I was wrong. Your people fight like nothing I have ever encountered. We fight like survivors, Okonkwo said, because that is what we are. Survivors of a planet that tried to kill us every day. Survivors of wars you cannot imagine. You thought we would be easy prey because we do not have scales or claws. You forgot that the most dangerous predators on Earth never needed them. Vorthak closed his eyes. What are your terms? Will you destroy us completely? Will you enslave my people the way we enslaved others? Okonkwo leaned back in her chair. This was the moment she had thought about every day since Proxima Station. She could order the destruction of the Krithax civilization. She could make them suffer the way they had made others suffer. Part of her wanted exactly that. But she knew that revenge would not bring back the 50,000 people who died at Proxima Station. Here are my terms, Okonkwo said. The Krithax Empire is dissolved effective immediately. Your military will be dismantled. Your warships will be destroyed or converted to civilian use. Every species you have enslaved will be freed and given reparations from your resources. Your government will be reformed under galactic supervision. Vorthak listened, his expression unreadable. These terms were harsh but not genocidal. The Krithax would survive, but they would never again threaten others. And what of me? Vorthak asked. What of those who ordered the attack on Proxima Station? You will stand trial, Okonkwo said. Not a human trial. A galactic trial, judged by representatives from every species you have harmed. If found guilty, you will face appropriate punishment. But there will be due process. There will be justice, not revenge. Vorthak was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Your terms are acceptable. The Krithax surrender unconditionally. 3 months later, Ambassador Chenwei stood before the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive chamber. Some were former Krithax slaves, newly freed. Others were neutral parties who had watched the war with growing amazement. All of them wanted to know what humanity would do with its victory. Chenwei looked older than he had before the war began. The stress of negotiation and diplomacy had aged him, but his voice was steady as he addressed the assembly. "The war with the Krithax Empire is over," Chenwei announced. "But the question now is what kind of galaxy we want to build from the ashes." For thousands of years, the Krithax ruled through fear and strength. They believed that power gave them the right to dominate others. He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humanity rejects this philosophy. We do not want an empire. We do not want slaves. We want a galaxy where every species has the right to live free from fear. Therefore, humanity proposes the creation of a new galactic federation, with representatives from all willing species. A federation built on law, not strength, on cooperation, not domination." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species were skeptical. Others were enthusiastic. But all of them understood that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy's strongest species had been defeated, and the victors were offering peace instead of conquest. A Vrelian delegate, one of the species enslaved by the Krithax for centuries, stood up. "Why should we trust you? You have shown you can defeat anyone. What stops you from becoming the new Krithax?" Chenwei smiled sadly. "Nothing stops us except our own choice. And we choose differently. We choose to build rather than destroy. We choose cooperation over domination, not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to be merciful." The vote on the Galactic Federation took 2 days. In the end, 173 species agreed to join. The Krithax, as part of their surrender terms, were accepted as junior members with limited rights until they proved they had changed. Captain Marcus Rodriguez retired after the war. He returned to his family on Europa and tried to forget the things he had seen and done. But sometimes at night he looked up at the stars and remembered. He remembered Proxima Station. He remembered the battles. He remembered the Krithax warriors he had killed. Sergeant Maria Chen became an instructor, training the next generation of human soldiers. She made sure every recruit understood the cost of war and the responsibility that came with strength. "We did not fight to prove we were strong," she told her students. "We fought to prove we would not accept extinction. Never forget the difference." Admiral Sarah Okonkwo remained in service for another 10 years, helping to build the peacekeeping forces of the new Galactic Federation. She made sure that humanity's military strength was used to protect others, not dominate them. When she finally retired, she returned to Earth and wrote a book about the war. She called it The Price of Peace. General Vorthak was found guilty of war crimes at his trial. He spent the rest of his life in a detention facility, but he was not executed. Under the new galactic laws that humanity helped write, even war criminals had rights. Some humans thought this was too merciful. Others understood that showing mercy was what separated them from the Krithax. 20 years after the war ended, a young Krithax named Shalix graduated from the Galactic Federation Academy. She had been born after the war, part of a new generation raised without empire or conquest. She was assigned to a peacekeeping ship with a mixed crew that included humans, Vrelians, and even a few older Krithax who had reformed. Her captain was a human named Rodriguez, son of the famous war hero. He welcomed her aboard with a smile. "Welcome to the crew," Captain Rodriguez said. "Do not worry about your species. Here we judge people by their actions, not their history." Shalix felt something she had not expected to feel on a ship with humans. She felt safe. She felt accepted. This was the galaxy her grandparents had almost destroyed, and now it was giving her a chance to help build something better. Across the galaxy, on countless worlds, children heard stories about the war, about the Krithax Empire that thought it was invincible, about the humans who taught them otherwise. The stories were told differently on different worlds, but they all had the same lesson. Never underestimate humanity. Not because they are cruel, but because they survive. Not because they seek war, but because they will fight if forced. Not because they want revenge, but because they will accept nothing less than freedom. In a small school on Earth, a teacher told her students about the war. One child raised his hand with a question. "Teacher, why did we fight so hard? Why did we risk everything?" The teacher smiled. "Because we are human. And humans do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept extinction. We fight, we survive, and we build. That is what makes us human. That is what will always make us human. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not the weakest species or the strongest. They were something more dangerous. They were survivors, and they had shown everyone what that meant.